the bottom line is know your subject well. You need to understand, know your product well. You need to understand what do you want to go and sell it to the regulators and back it with scientific data and the outcomes that are best for the patients and humanity.
Hello and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm Sunny Panchori, your host. And today we have the honor of speaking with someone who embodies this very essence of leadership, Ms. Sumati Randeo, a distinguished leader in the healthcare sector with a career that spans over 3 decades. Ms. Sumati is a globally recognized expert in clinical research, regulatory affairs, quality compliance, and policy advocacy within the healthcare industry. With years of experience at top pharmaceutical and medtech MNCs like Abbott, Roche, Danaher, and Ranbaxy, she has played a pivotal role in shaping regulatory strategies and driving major policy reforms, particularly across India and Pan Asia. Her career is marked by groundbreaking achievements, including securing first mover advantages for key product approvals and collaborating with government bodies to transform healthcare regulations. Beyond her corporate leadership, Ms. Sumati has also served as a consulting advisor to organizations like the WHO, Indian Ministry of Health, influencing both national and global healthcare policies. In today's episode, we will explore Ms. Sumati's incredible journey from overcoming regulatory challenges to advocating for meaningful policy reforms. Ms. Sumati, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you very much for a very humble introduction. All pleasure is mine.
Great to hear that. All right, so to kick things off, Ms. Sumati, you have had such an incredible impact in regulatory affairs and healthcare. What was that spark that led you into this field? Were there any defining moments or pivotal experiences along the way that shaped the professional you are today? We would love to hear the story behind your journey in your own words.
Indeed, Sunny, and I would just like to start with quoting Albert Einstein, who said that strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. So that has been the mantra that has been always encouraging me to foster my journey through various arenas of healthcare professional, what I am today. I would take you back to the year 1995 when I graduated from my pharmacy school. And it was the month of May, wherein as a aspiring young pharmacist, I was looking forward, which was the key arena to be explored for was marketing and advertising for pharmaceuticals. With a young mind actually focused on that, I never knew what it actually was in store for me, because at that point of time, there was a campus interview that was organized for actually encouraging students to join one of the clinical trials, which was going to happen in the country, a multi-centric, for the first time indeed. And way back in 95, when GCP was not heard of, and even the pharma industry was actually getting into a landmark arena wherein the TRIPS was introduced with the implementation of trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, as I mentioned, the TRIPS agreement. And that had actually obliged the pharma industry to introduce product patents rather than from what it was earlier as a process patent. And this needed to have the robust clinical data to support some of the filings in the country. And as a result, it was some very niche field, no idea what to do, where to go. But yes, this opportunity came my way as I was campus selected, the first woman to be campus selected in those days. And indeed, that had paved the way for understanding of regulations, of understanding the clinical trial requirements, because at the same time in 1996, global clinical practices were also rolled out worldwide based on the ICH principles. So this required a lot of policy changes, reforms, the way the healthcare industry was going to shape up in the future. This had that spark that ignited in me to, progress with my career into various fields, leaving aside the thought that I had earlier of medical marketing, getting into the R&D space with all these requirements, which were very, very niche and going to move the world into a better, regulated, harmonized, globally applauded as a pharmacy of the world for India to be on the global map. So yes, this is what has shaped my career.
It's such an inspiring your journey, Ms. Sumati. I can only imagine the kind of dedication it took to navigate those challenges.
Yes, indeed. So, as I said, it had to be a lot of effort to go beyond the my pharmacy knowledge, because I was had to had a lot of trainings. As I said, it was a first multicentric trial, so it was on a cardiovascular drug, which was a low molecular weight heparin, and as a result, I had to be trained with the premier institutes, cardiologists, who is who of the world and in India. The institutes, to name a few, were like the Tata Memorial Hospital, AIMS, Delhi, etc. And that paved the way for having my niche on the trials, clinical trials operations, not only with respect to the cardiology segment, but oncology, which was also picking up. And there was a new arena with respect to regulations. The Schedule Y regulations for clinical trials were rolled out in the country, and there were a revamp of them happening in 2001. And hence, got the first stint of getting to know the policy advocacy. Now, with that, there was a shift, a paradigm shift in 2006 from the drug regulations to the medical devices regulations, because India had just come up with the requirement for regulating 10 medical devices in the country in 2005, based on the issue of a substandard drug-eluting stent being used in the country. And as a result, Mumbai High Court had, said that these needs to be regulated by Drug Controller of India. Now that paved the way for understanding the regulations, not only from the pharma side, but also the medical devices, which is again a new world altogether, and helped me to work in close tandem with the regulators, because they were being shaped up. And as industry was moving to understand the regulatory mindset and regime, so were the regulators, how to regulate and how to do the implementation. So this was a tango which was done between the industry, and I was at the pivotal part of it. So yes, this has really helped to shape the career.
So, as you said, you have been at the forefront of healthcare policy and regulatory reforms, shaping the landscape in India and the Asia Pacific region. So, looking back, is there a specific moment when you saw your advocacy directly influencing change? Perhaps a time when your efforts truly made an impact and set the stage for future advancements? I would love to hear about one of those pivotal moments that defined your journey.
Yes, so as I mentioned, in 2000, earlier 2000s, it was the shaping of the Schedule Y and the regulations for the clinical trials, how they can be shaped for the new drug approvals in the country. And of course, bringing in, at that point of time, I was working with Rinbaxy, one of the Indian MNCs. And the focus was to bring the products at the same time as Innovator was launching it globally in India. This required a lot of robust clinical data to be presented to the drug regulators, and also supported by R&D initiatives which were taken on. Having said that, this did pave the way for understanding the various nuances of the business, right from the conceptualization to the product being delivered, as we say, French to bed. So the regulatory science, I would say, was the focus, and hence was given an opportunity to understand and manage these operations in tandem with a lot of the other stakeholders within the organization. So one of the key achievements were a few of the drugs which we were able to launch within 90 days of the innovator launching it globally, and at times even at the same time in the country with the data being presented and being accepted. This also paved the way for having the advocacy, wherein the clinical trials were looked upon as a new science, enabling the process of drug regulation as well as R&D to have new formulations, not only the molecules, but new drug delivery systems, if I have to say that. There were many drugs which were not having those kind of formulations which were presented by the Indian manufacturers with the innovators also. To give an example, like anti inflammatory drug, which was made into a chewable formation, which was very, very adaptable for younger patients. And this was not so available with the innovator. Another aspect, I would say, wherein a lot of impact was made through the policy advocacy and understanding the regulations, was in 2006, when I was actually given an opportunity through medical device regulations, which were still, evolving in the country. They were not even having a set regulatory regime to have the drug-eluting stent being approved by the drug regulators with a data presentation and a submission that was called as a gold standard submission at that point of time. This was only possible getting the training, understanding the nuances, the science, away from the pharmaceutical world into the engineering, biomedical requirements. So I would say that the important aspect has been how to gear up and pull the socks up to have the training and the real mindset in going with the adaptability of the change rather than just focusing on what the skill repertoire was in the past. So just to give you an example, I did got myself trained for ISO 13485, which is a lead auditor program for medical devices, which helped me understand the nuances of the device regulations and the standards involved. Was partly to the ISO 1455 being drafted and being part of the standards committee to help understand the clinical investigation standard that could be implemented for medical devices, and later on even for IVDs for that matter, which was a different standard. So the risk management standards, etc. So these trainings on the job helped me to understand more what was required. Now, this was on the technical side. There was also something that was required to understand the nuances of the business, because if the product is not making any sense on the market, how we can take it further, right? So all the entire R&D and the regulatory skill set wouldn't have made it possible. So got myself equipped with the knowledge of having the regulatory management skills at Kellogg's at a short program. And that helped me, get some of the strategic inputs that could be implemented, reading between the lines from the regulations, taking it as a regulatory science, and delivering. Just an example, like there was a product which was requiring 100 patient clinical data, but the successful advocacy with the regulators helped get that waived off, and hence an early launch, an advantage over the competition. Similarly, another new product, which was a breakthrough technology, how to get it not tested in the country, which was a regulatory requirement because there wasn't any testing site available, and at the same time submitting the data on the clinical evaluation, substantial requirements, etc., which could help the product being launched much ahead of the curve. So these are the examples I would say would have helped.
Incredible, incredible. And it's inspiring to know that impactful change is often driven by leaders like you who step into those challenging yet transformative moments.
Yes, I would say, and as you have to keep the business objectives also at par with the science, and most importantly, the patient outcomes is the focus that should be always there. So all these early mover products, having them getting the authorization earlier than stipulated time, actually help patients to get the products in the timely manner and get the innovative solutions which were always thought of to be available in the developed world. So India did come on the map of the globe. I would say this helped in bringing in the lot of products to the patients, Indian patients, when it was required, better patient outcomes, better quality of life, as well as bringing India on the global map. So yes, the regulatory reforms have helped in a big way. And of course, the advocacy paved the way for that.
Amazing, amazing, Miss Sumati. All right, so continuing our conversation, your expertise has not only been recognized globally, but it has also had a significant impact on the regulatory landscape in India. So, one of the most remarkable aspects of your work is how you have secured a first mover's advantage for regulatory approvals, an achievement that's not easy to come by. So, I'd love to hear about one of those strategies you have used to achieve this and how it ultimately influenced the market.
Yes, I would like to quote one of the very recent times example. And this was when the entire humanity was being actually fighting for the survival, the COVID time.
Yes.
So unfortunately, till the COVID came, the pandemic came to India, we never had the authorization to be supported, market authorization to be supported with an early approval or an emergency approval for the IVD kits or the test kits. So in the March of 2020, when the pandemic broke down, we had a lot of data that was supporting that the pandemic is already on, and India too had to gear up to get these kits earlier than what was expected with the normal conventional regulatory approval roadmaps. Now, what this meant was getting the kits earlier, although there wasn't any substantial evidence or I would say data to support the earlier approval as would have required by the regulatory authorities. Also, the testing of the kits has been always the main focus, especially for something which is high risk category products. For example, that was for COVID at that point of time. So as a result, what happened was that we had to get into discussion, not only with the Ministry of Health and the regulatory body that is CDSCO in the country, which is Central Drug Standards Control Organization, also with the other I would say the sister bodies like ICMR, then Ministry of Health, the offices, the health secretary's offices, and there was also a task force that was created underneath the EO to have all the bodies to come together and share with them what could be the offering with respect to what is already there. As an experience, not with the COVID, but similar kind of diseases, for example, tuberculosis, etc., because the platform was the same and only the test was different. So we did a lot of advocacy, and without going into too many details about that and technical aspects, it was a journey which was very fulfilling, not only professionally, but also as a human, because we could get back to the society which needed that at that stage the most. And hence, there were a lot of interactions done, a lot of presentations made to the officials, and we worked with them to pave the way for a regulation which was an emergency use approval in the country. And this helped get the test kits approved, not only in weeks' time, some of them were approved within hours by the ministry. And hence, a lot of I would say, work that was done in the background, both by the industry and, of course, the advocacy was played. And at that point of time, I was with the company called Roche. We had the first COVID test kit being launched by Roche in the market, and many after that had paved the way for getting the best to the patients, which was required at that point of time. So this is one example. And then there was another operational example, which I would just say, which had a lot of impact on the businesses. Now, some of the MNCs companies, they were not able to get them. And this was like before they are actually being imported to the country, we had to have those India-specific labels. And as a result, there was a positive advocacy done wherein they regulators agreed for getting them in the bonded warehouses. So this actually resulted in saving a lot of dollars, as well as operational hazards, which the companies were facing, and getting the products right to the patients on time. So few examples wherein, as I said, the goal was to get the products where it needed to be at the speed, at the time, because in health, you cannot compromise with treatment getting delayed. Treatment getting delayed is treatment denied. So yes, this becomes an important aspect.
That's incredibly impactful, Ms. Sumati. It's not just about the technicalities of the approval, but the vision and strategy behind them. And your approach is a great lesson in leadership and perseverance.
Yes. And even during the COVID times, it was not just, getting into the technical issues and about the product. It was also maintaining the supply chain, getting the engineers, having discussions with Ministry of External Affairs, with embassies, Indian embassies in US, in Germany, because that's where the products were coming, and how we could actually work with the expert group that was formed, that the manufacturing was also kept on, because as you remember, there was a lockdown and everything was shut down, but it was through the positive advocacy and the support from the government, who actually accepted that these manufacturing units were open 24/7, so that the goods could reach to the patients and we could have less at least impact from what it was during the pandemic. So these are many examples wherein the whole convergence goes between the policy advocacy process, the regulatory requirements. And I would also like to mention, sometimes the regulations are being misconstrued from legislations. So legislations and regulations are very different, and so are the guidances and the standards. So how do you bring and plug and play all these different parts of the puzzle together in the advocacy is what needs to be taken forward as a thought leader, and work closely with all the stakeholders within the organization and external stakeholders as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, diving deeper into the conversation, Ms. Sumati, you have worked closely with bodies like the Ministry of Health and ICMR on crucial policy developments, as we discussed before. From your experience, how can professionals in healthcare and regulatory affairs foster stronger collaborations with government institutions? That is part of my question. And what would be your key advice for making these partnerships more impactful so they truly shape policy and drive real reforms?
Yes, I think that's a very interesting question. The bottom line is, know your subject well. You need to know your product well. You need to understand what do you want to go and sell it to the regulators, and back it with scientific data and the outcomes that are best for the patients and humanity. So it's having said that, the regulatory environment is constantly reforming. when we started with the pharmaceutical industry, way before when we were born, right? It wasn't thought at that point of time that there will be innovations which would be there in drug delivery systems like they are today. There will be innovations wherein we are talking about a world wherein we can have injectables which are not to be injected with syringes and needles. This is happening today, right? So, and the basic idea is improvements that can bring in with the leaps and bounds that science is making as a progress for the humanity, and also the basic, I would say, quality of life for the patients, and therapeutic outcomes that could be very beneficial. Now, these need to be also balanced well with the economic scale. So what do we need to have when we are going and discussing with the regulators? They want best of the products. They are probably looking at safeguarding the citizens at the same time having, because they are the decision takers. So we need to respect that. So that's number one. Number two, as I said, if we know our subject well, and if we are showing that there is improvement in all the aspects that I have shared earlier, the patient outcome, the scale of economics, the innovation that could lead to a better quality of life, etc., and then present it as a package, I think regulators will hear, because they're ultimately also responsible for getting the best to the patients and the humanity, doing good to the humanity. There should be a transparent dialogue between the industry and the regulators, understanding the challenges regulators face, and regulators can understand where are the challenges industry is coming up with, right? And we have to maintain a constant flow of dialogue. There has to be a very um, robust communication backed with the data, and also with the support of creating um, an environment which could be amicable for both. Regulators are facing challenge in terms of not being equipped with the knowledge, and also getting pace maintained with the plethora of innovations that are happening. Example, AI, etc. So AI is really supporting and bringing in a lot of changes in the healthcare scenario as well. So how do we help and support them to get equipped with the knowledge? Could be one way to deal with this. Second is also explain them in a very transparent manner, as I said, the advantages of what we are having as an offering, and then work with them in the policy framework that could be leading to introduction of these innovative products.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's truly fascinating, Ms. Sumati. Building those kinds of bridges can't be easy, but it's clear how much it has an impact on. And your advice will definitely resonate with many professionals in the field.
Yes, I agree. And as I said, this is one field you have to be constantly upgrading your skill set, knowledge, repertoire, because if you're not, then I think you will be laid back, because this is a constantly evolving field, and so much is happening and so many changes that to keep pace with that, constant upgradation of the skill set and knowledge is required, and support that to your internal stakeholders, your teams, as well as your external stakeholders.
Rightly said. So, Ms. Sumati, you have already achieved so much throughout your career. But looking ahead, what are some of your key aspirations for the future, both in terms of your personal growth and the impact you hope to make in the boardroom? And part B of my question is, how do you see the evolving landscape of healthcare and regulatory affairs shaping your ambitions moving forward?
Yes, indeed, so I would start with what the transformative changes have happened here in India. For example, regulators have become more open for discussions. There have been initiatives like MedTech Mitra. There have been initiatives like wherein they have asked industry to be part of their discussions on the table for the reforms of the policy. Then there are initiatives globally, I would say, like, for example, IMTRF, which is International Medical Device Regulators Forum, introducing some of the key initiatives wherein there can be a single audit program, which is called as NDSAP, etc. So using those kind of examples and having changes and reforms in the next, I would say, arena that is coming up with innovations at such a faster pace, with the click of the mouse, and also virtually we can impact those changes, which was not thought of in a serious manner, at least pre-pandemic area. Now it is happening. Also, with these reforms globally in the geopolitical situation wherein economic turmoil is happening, how we can balance the act, that becomes an important aspect. So I see myself an ambassador who can work with these authorities, with the various corporates, to leverage the experience of the past and have my own continuous learning while learning with them the nuances of innovation and the new world which is emerging at such a fast pace with AI being dominant. And again, support in some of the initiatives with maybe seeing how we can rewrite those standards, how can we rewrite those regulations, which can have a place to support these initiatives going forward. And that would maintain the business growth on the economic side, as well as sustainability for some of the core activities that are required for business to not have any risk, and hence help the mitigation process in place. There are many reforms which also come as knee-jerk reactions of some issue that would have erupted in the society or at large in the environment. And as a result, these regulations or legislations are imposed without any readiness for the industry. So I can pave a way of having those compliances being set in a manner that there is least risk involved, and the businesses can equip themselves with the strategies to overcome these compliance risks that are associated with it. So these are few thoughts that I have in my mind, wherein I can work with the industry, with the regulators, with the subject matter experts in different fields, and work through all these areas. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I must say, you have got a very strong vision for the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the vision comes with the vision that is actually now coming up all throughout the sectors. And I may say, since I've worked with the most regulated sector, it's even easy for me to get into unregulated sector, which may get regulated again at some point of time because of a lot of quality issues that are being faced in different sectors. So these can be also supported if you've worked in a highest regulated sector. So that experience can be leveraged there as well. So I would like to leverage my experience going forward, not only with the regulated sector, but unregulated sector beyond healthcare as well.
Incredible. Incredible. Great. So moving ahead, given your extensive experience in regulatory affairs, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you have seen corporate governance evolve in the healthcare sector, particularly in Asia. And what do you think are the key pillars that businesses should focus on to maintain transparency and accountability, especially when navigating complex regulatory landscapes?
Yes, I think, again, a very apt question in recent times where there is a lot of cost cutting is the focus with most of the corporates. Now, cost cutting is important, of course, but then we cannot compromise with the quality, and businesses do understand. But that is so more with the big businesses or larger corporates. The small SMEs, etc., probably think, that they can compromise with the quality because it comes with the cost. Now, the world, the way it is shaping up, and the environment, the way it is shaping up, would not pardon them from doing that, be it a bigger corporate house or a smaller SME or even a startup for that matter. Because, as I said, information is available to everybody and everywhere. It's no more that you can, push it under the carpet if there is something that goes wrong. So, with having that as an important element, it would be very pertinent for corporates to understand the nuances of the regulations, the regulatory compliances, and also keep at the hem of it the quality. Now, having said that, what they need to do is that, of course, it doesn't mean that they have to spend lavishly for quality and, run their business into a risk for not making enough, I would say, gains or, meeting their business objectives. They have to work on a strategy wherein these are having a plug and play. What I'm saying is that in their business growth, regulatory operations, quality compliances need to have a plug and play in early days when they're thinking of conceptualizing the product. R&D should involve the regulatory professionals, the quality professionals, get them into the roadmap of strategizing where to do, what to do, when to do with the legislations, with the policy advocacy, so that their roadmap for getting the product to the market is not having these hurdles, which they may say. That's number one. Number two is keep constantly updated with the regulations, with the requirements, not domestically, but also globally. Because as we see, although there is a lot of harmonization and convergence happening on the regulatory frameworks and the regulatory requirements, but still there are country specific or region specific requirements that are very important. And hence, and with again the global order becoming more protectionist, to save and sail through them with the complete understanding what is required. So these will help the corporates to maintain their, I would say, uh, growth trajectory and also have solutions to some of the challenges they may face in a right manner and also ahead of the curve, and be engaged in these discussions and have seat on the table earlier rather than have it as a knee-jerk reaction. So basically, I would say that it is a philosophy of having a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. So that's what corporates should look at going forward. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. And that's really thought-provoking point, Ms. Sumati. It's clear that leadership and accountability play such a pivotal role in shaping the future of any industry.
Indeed. And the leaders need to think it in early days rather than, being just focused on the numbers. So usually what we see, the corporates are more focused on the numbers and they see it as a hurdle that would be going back to the regulatory or quality, I would say, whiteboard. Have your strategies aligned with the regulatory and quality, have the whiteboard discussions with them at an early stage so that the complexities of having surprises and issues that may turn the events upside down when you're closer to the launch, etc., may be avoided.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. So that brings us to the last question of the podcast. And here it is. You recently joined Directors Institute and we would love to hear about your experience so far. What motivated you to become part of the Institute in the first place, and how has the journey with the Institute been so far?
It's been an incredible journey. I'm answering your second part of the question first so far. it gives me a lot of interesting paradigm shift from what I've been thinking just with the healthcare mindset. So that's the most important aspect I had been looking forward to. So increasing my skill set beyond healthcare, that was one. And understanding the nuances, though I have been part of the boardroom discussions, but getting into the nuances of the how the balance sheet changes can impact and what would be required from the strategic impetus with respect to the know-how on the capital side and as well as human resource side would be the things that I would be looking forward to and increase my skills set on those aspects. So that's what had motivated me to join this, and the journey has been incredible so far. So what I'm looking forward to is not just providing my technical skill set in the board discussions, but going beyond that, beyond regulatory and beyond quality.
Absolutely. And it's clear that your experience with Directors Institute has been a transformative one, if I may say.
Yes.
Great. It's always inspiring to hear how such organizations like Directors Institute can elevate one's professional journey. And thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ms. Sumati.
My pleasure. And I hope I can make some change in the society with the little skill set I have and can, upscale my skill sets to bring further changes uh, in the society at large.
We wish you luck for that.
Thank you.
So that was such an inspiring conversation. I want to take a moment to sincerely thank you for joining us on FaceTime with Leaders today. Your insights into healthcare regulations, your work with government bodies, and your advocacy for policy reforms have not only been enlightening, but also incredibly motivating. So thank you so much, Ms. Sumati, for joining in.
Thank you.
And to our audience for tuning in, I hope this discussion has given you fresh perspectives on leadership, innovation, and the importance of driving change through strategic governance and advocacy. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to hear more stories of visionary leaders making a difference, don't forget to subscribe to FaceTime with Leaders. As always, we encourage you to stay curious, keep pushing the boundaries in your own careers, and never stop learning from those around you. Thanks again for being part of today's conversation. And until next time, continue leading with impact. Take care, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.